interesting the creativity that goes into trying to find places to store grain.
Absolutely.
And this is going to ebb and flow as commodity prices change.
You're going to see a lot more of these happen.
You do think so?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because of the aging.
One of the aging, and two, wheat is your #1 easiest grain to take care of on the ground.
Right. And that's just because of it can handle the elements.
The elements, yeah.
What would it be hard to having soybeans out here?
Soybeans would not be a good idea.
You'd ruin them real quick.
What about
6 months? They'd be
6 months. They'd be.
Yep.
What about corn?
Corn you can go for a little bit.
Yeah. Now maybe sorghum you can do. Maybe no, or is that?
Yeah, sorghum you can do.
There's quite a few sorghum piles, especially out west, southwest Kansas, Oklahoma Panhandle. There's a lot of milo out on the ground.
I'm heading out to Garden City next. Will I see other piles of wheat and stuff out there?
Absolutely. Well, you'll see piles. I don't know how their wheat crop fared with the weather that they had this year.
Right.
So I don't know if they were able to empty their elevators out or not.
Right.
But I know, like say, I grew up in Dodge City, and you'd see piles of them.
Yeah.
They weren't obviously near this.
So this has been going on for a long time.
Yes, sir.
But the idea of being able to store more grain because it makes sense for the co-ops or the. I think it's telling me one that Kansas farmers are very productive. That in 2016 in particular we had a record wheat harvest that created large amounts of grain supply, and this is a supply and demand issue. Part of my job, and I think our efforts in Congress need to be focused on how we drive that demand up, how we drive those prices up, because ultimately that moves this grain to people who need it, and more than anything, ultimately it puts money in the pockets of farmers, because they're the ones who depend on the higher prices to be able to pay their bills. And as prices have gone down, it's partly because we don't have the demand to keep up with the supply. So supply goes up, we need demand to go up.
Right.
And we want our farmers to be productive. We want them to have good acreage that produces a lot of grain. We got to find more purchasers around the world. We're working right now on a lot of trade deals with Asian countries. You may have seen, Mary, we just opened up a new opportunity to sell beef to China for the first time in, I don't know, about 15 years. We need more deals like that to sell Kansas meat and Kansas grain around the world. That's a great way to get these prices up and do what Kansas do best, which is we feed the world here. It's what we're experts at, and we're very efficient farmers, and as our efficiency improves, we can feed more people. We just got to get the products to them.
And it looks like President Trump's kind of done a little bit of a change since he's been on NAFTA.
Yeah.
And you're going to hear farmers say that they like NAFTA. And so what's the message that you take?
The message I'm carrying back to the president is that as he looks to improve NAFTA and other trade agreements, we have to keep in mind the importance of agriculture exports. Nothing wrong with renegotiating these deals as long as it gets better. But what we wouldn't want is to negotiate a new deal that harmed our ability to export grain to Mexico or Canada. That's a critical part of American agriculture, and we can't lose that. And so the voices of farmers in Kansas, they have to be heard in this negotiation.
And what's the message? And I imagine you'll hear this, as you travel farther west. The concern about immigration and finding people to actually, do the jobs.
Well, we have a labor shortage in this country. I hear from businesses every day in my district and across Kansas that they need workers. And when they get an opening or two or 10 or 100, it's hard for them to fill those positions. And so good legal immigration is a part of American agriculture. And we need to reform the immigration process in Washington, fix the broken system, and part of that will include ensuring that we have good opportunities for temporary worker visas, work programs that allow American or Kansas agriculture producers to have the labor they need to bring in their product.
And then
So the point is, I think Washington, we need to differentiate between illegal immigration and legal immigration. Those are two different things, and we've got to do all that we can to, I think, stem the tide of illegal immigration, better border security, but at the same time, we can't forget that we're a nation of immigrants, first and foremost, and second of all, immigration is part of making our economy work and keeping Kansas productive.
And you're on the appropriations
Yes, ma'am.
ag subcommittee. What's the thing on its agenda like in September? I mean, as you go back.
Well, as we work to balance our budget and rein in spending, part of the agriculture subcommittee's job will be to ensure that we don't make cuts to crop insurance, that the programs that are working for farmers, that we make sure they're fully funded and we keep our commitment. Now more than ever, farmers need to know that they have security and that their risk is protected. And so that's a big part of what we'll be doing. We'll also be working with the USDA to fund programs for research, K-State, grain and agriculture research as well.